Let me paint you a picture. It's 2 a.m., you're lying in bed, staring at your phone, and you just opened your banking app for the third time today. Balance? $247. You've got rent due in 5 days, a credit card minimum payment breathing down your neck, and someone just texted you about splitting a $60 birthday dinner this weekend. And here's the thing that really kills you. You know you're supposed to be saving. You've watched the videos, you understand compound interest. You've done the math on a retirement calculator and realized you need like $1.2 million to retire comfortably. But right now, staring at $247, that goal feels less like a mountain and more like Saturn. It's not even in the same dimension as your reality. Here's what I'm going to prove to you in the next 15 minutes. Your first $1,000 is objectively, scientifically, mathematically harder than your next $10,000. Not because you're bad with money, not because you're lazy, but because you're fighting a rigged game and nobody ever explained the rules. Let's fix that. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The biggest obstacle between you and your first $1,000 isn't your income. It's not even your expenses. It's the 3-pound meat computer sitting inside your skull. Scientists call this temporal discounting, and it's the reason you'll choose a $50 dinner tonight over $500 in your bank account next year. Your brain literally values immediate rewards exponentially more than future ones. And I mean exponentially. Studies show that people would rather have $50 today than $100 in a year. That's a 100% return, and we still choose the immediate option. Why? Because your brain is running on ancient software. 10,000 years ago, if you found a berry bush, you ate those berries immediately. You didn't save them for winter because there was a very real chance a bear would eat you before winter arrived. The humans who delayed gratification, they died. The ones who grabbed resources now, they survived and passed on their genes. To you, congratulations, you're the descendant of the most impulsive humans in history. This is why scrolling through Amazon at midnight feels so good, why that $6 latte doesn't feel like real money, why investing $200 into an index fund feels like throwing money into a black hole, but spending $200 on concert tickets feels totally justified. Your brain literally cannot comprehend your future self as a real person. There's an MIT study that used fMRI scans and found that when people think about their future selves, the same part of the brain lights up as when they think about strangers. You are biologically wired to screw over future you because current you doesn't recognize them as the same person. So when you're trying to save that first $1,000, you're not just resisting temptation, you're fighting millions of years of evolution. And you're doing it with zero momentum, zero proof it works, and zero margin for error. Let's talk about cognitive bandwidth. Imagine your brain is a computer with 8 gigabytes of RAM. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, 7 gigabytes of that RAM is constantly running background processes. Can I afford gas? Did I pay that bill? What if my car breaks down? Should I pick up an extra shift? You are operating in survival mode. And in survival mode, you don't have the mental space for long-term strategy. You're not thinking about index funds and Roth IRAs. You're thinking about making it to Friday without overdrafting. There's a famous study from Princeton where they gave people cognitive tests while under financial stress. The conclusion? Poverty reduces cognitive function by the equivalent of 13 IQ points. Not because poor people are less intelligent, but because financial stress physically consumes the mental bandwidth you'd otherwise use for planning, decision-making, and self-control. Now, contrast that with someone who has $20,000 in their savings account. They've got breathing room. Their brain isn't in constant threat detection mode. When their car makes a weird noise, they don't panic. They just get it fixed. They can think proactively instead of reactively. This is why your first $1,000 is so brutal. You're trying to make smart long-term decisions while your brain is literally screaming at you that you're in danger. Every dollar you save feels like a dollar you're stealing from your own survival. But here's the shift. Once you hit $1,000, even just 1,000, your brain starts to relax. That low-level anxiety about what if something happens starts to fade. You've got a buffer, and that buffer creates the mental space to start thinking about $10,000. All right, let's get into the numbers because this is where it gets beautiful. Let's say you're saving $100 a month. Your first $1,000, that takes 10 months. 10 months of discipline, 10 months of saying no, 10 months of eating leftovers and skipping the happy hour. And at the end of those 10 months, you get $1,000. No bonuses, no shortcuts, just pure manual heavy lifting effort. But here's where it changes. Let's say you keep saving that $100 a month and you're earning a 7% annual return in a basic index fund. Nothing fancy, just the S&P 500 average. To go from $1,000 to $11,000, you'd need to save another $10,000, right? At $100 a month, that's 100 months, over 8 years. Except it's not, because your money is working for you now. With compound interest, you hit $11,000 in about 84 months, 7 years. You just saved an entire year of effort, and that gap, it only gets bigger. By the time you hit $20,000, your investments are generating around $1,400 a year. That's basically 14 months of your $100 savings for free. You didn't work for it, you didn't sacrifice for it, your money just made more money. This is the momentum shift. The first $1,000 is 100% you, but the next $10,000, maybe 70% is you and 30% is your money doing the work. And the $10,000 after that, maybe 50-50. By the time you're at $100,000, the majority of your growth is just compounding doing its thing. But you only get to that magical snowball effect if you survive the first $1,000. That's the barrier. That's the filter. Most people never make it past this point because the math feels too slow, too boring, too pointless. But it's not. It's the foundation. Here's the thing nobody talks about. The first $1,000 isn't really about the money. It's about becoming the type of person who has $1,000. There's a concept in psychology called self-efficacy. Basically, your belief in your own ability to achieve a goal. And self-efficacy isn't built through motivation or inspiration. It's built through evidence. When you have $0 in savings, you have zero evidence that you're capable of saving. Your brain has no reference point. Saving feels abstract, theoretical, impossible. But the first time you check your account and see $1,000 sitting there, money you built dollar by dollar, something shifts. You're not just someone who wants to save money, you're someone who has saved money. That's an identity change. And once that identity shifts, the behavior follows. Saving stops feeling like deprivation and starts feeling like a game you're winning. You start looking for ways to optimize. You get excited when you find $20 in an old jacket because that's $20 closer to your goal. The dopamine hit that used to come from spending starts coming from saving. I've seen this happen over and over. People who white-knuckle their way to $1,000 then suddenly hit $5,000 6 months later because the momentum became addictive. The first 1,000 is the hardest because you're fighting against your default identity. After that, you're fighting with a new one. Let's talk about the villains, because the reason most people never hit that first $1,000 isn't income, it's status spending. You know what I'm talking about. The $700 car payment on a vehicle that loses $5,000 in value the second you drive it off the lot. The $150 shoes because they're an investment. They're not. The $80 dinner you didn't even enjoy because you were too busy taking photos for Instagram. Here's the truth bomb. The people posting vacation photos from Bali, statistically, they're probably broke. The average American carries $9,000 in credit card debt. That influencer with the perfect aesthetic, there's a decent chance they're financing their lifestyle with 22% APR debt. We live in a culture that worships the appearance of wealth while actively punishing the accumulation of wealth. Because accumulating wealth is boring. It's a spreadsheet. It's saying no to brunch. It's driving a 2015 Honda Civic while your coworker shows up in a leased BMW. But here's the secret. That coworker is poor. They just don't look like it. Real wealth is invisible. It's the $50,000 sitting in index funds that nobody sees. It's the paid off car. It's the lack of anxiety when an unexpected expense shows up. And the first $1,000 is your first act of rebellion against the culture that wants you broke, anxious, and consuming. It's you saying, I'm not playing that game anymore. So here's the bottom line. Your first $1,000 is harder than your next $10,000 because you're fighting your own biology. Your brain is wired for instant gratification, and you're trying to override millions of years of evolution with a savings app. You're operating in survival mode. Financial stress physically reduces your cognitive bandwidth, making it harder to plan, strategize, and execute. You're doing 100% of the work. There's no compound interest, no momentum, no snowball effect, just you grinding it out month after month. You're fighting an identity crisis. You're trying to become a person you've never been before with zero evidence that you can do it. But once you hit $1,000, everything changes. Your brain relaxes. Compound interest kicks in. Your identity shifts. The game becomes easier. So if you're sitting here with $247 in your account, feeling like Saturn is closer than financial security, I need you to hear this. The first $1,000 isn't about the money. It's about proving to yourself that you can control your money instead of it controlling you. It's about evidence. It's about identity. It's about opting out of a system designed to keep you consuming and opting into a system where your money works for you. The first $1,000 is brutal, but it's the only thousand that fundamentally changes who you are. So start today, even if it's $20, even if it's $5. Because the person who saves their first $1,000 is the same person who saves their first $100,000. You just have to prove it to yourself first.